Now, this week, we explored the financial distress of emerging markets, particularly Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela and Turkey. Now, while all these countries suffer crashing currencies and high inflation, they still enjoy the benefits of tourism, earning billions through difficult economic times. And their governments are committed to attracting visitors and boosting exports. ENCA anchor, my colleague Shahan Ramkisoon, is in Istanbul and he joins us now live. Shahan, this is what President Cyril Ramaphosa was talking about, and this is why he's gone in terms of changing visa regulations, for example, to make it easier for people to come into the country, for businesses to come into the country. Tourism is so key to unlocking the economy for any country, never mind emerging markets.
Yeah, definitely the case, Michelle. And emerging markets can take the advantage of having a weaker currency because that attracts more tourists ultimately. Last year alone, Turkey had around 32 million tourists, bringing in about $26 billion to the economy. And that figure is expected to actually get higher this year because the numbers indicate that the current numbers are higher than the previous year during the same space, their airspace attractive, their countries attractive to foreigners, and make it easier for people to visit. And that's what Turkey has done. I mean, if you as a South African try to get a visa here, it's free. You go online, you apply, and you see so many from around the world visit Turkey because we don't have that long process of going to an embassy, waiting in those long lines, paying high prices for visas to actually get into a country. That's what this country has worked on and seemed to actually have gotten it right. Let's get more information on this. We're speaking to Bekir Hoja Olo, who is the Appreciate it. We're talking about the number of tourists that Turkey has seen and how easy it is to actually visit the country as a holiday maker. What are you seeing? What are the patterns in terms of the numbers coming here?
Especially during the last 10, 15 years, Turkey has invested a lot to the aviation sector. We doubled the number of airports, and so far we have more than 50 airports. You know, one of them is the largest airport of the world, which is going to be open at the end of next year. And the first phase is going to be 70 million capacity. And when it becomes fully ready, the capacity is going to be some like 200 million passengers. Thanks to the currency weakness of today, so Turkey is becoming more and more attractive for foreign tourists. And especially the aviation sector, actually, because the aviation sector history of Turkey is quite old. Just after the inauguration of Republic of Turkey, which was 1925, we established our institution, which is Turkish Aeronautical Association, and we have very close relation with the World Aeronautic Association, which is FAI, is located in Lausanne. And we did a very interesting event in 1997. We call it World Air Games. It's a kind of Air Olympics, Air Games Olympics. And we attract millions of people last 20 years. And we planned another one in 2020. We call it World Air Games 2020. It's going to be held 6 different cities of Turkey, and all 120 members of this FAI organization will be invited, and we are expecting a huge volume of income in tourism sector.
So obviously the airspace is something you're capitalizing on in Turkey because you make it easier for people to travel here. You use the airspace to actually attract tourists to come and watch those shows in particular. What's the result? Ultimately, you're getting more money into the economy. What then? How do you make this bigger? How do you make it more attractive to the world?
Because, you know, the world is changing, and in the past we were considering tourism is related with sun and sand, other elements. But the other countries, as well as Turkey, invented other instruments to be used. And one of the most attractive one of this is air, actually, the air sports. Because 2.6 million air sport related people are traveling all around the world, and they are trying to find new destination for tourism, because it is not very easy to attract tourists just for sun so far. That's why we realized this one. In the last 20 years, we invest a lot to find new areas of interest. And definitely airspace, air sport is one of these elements.
How do you invest? What do you do to actually make it attractive?
I'll just give you an example. In 1997, there was potential in Turkey, but since nobody invested this area, there was no income from that activity. And today we have $150 million of income from this airsport activity, and our target after 2020 is $300 million a year. And so especially we would like to find appropriate places for airsport. Is paragliding, for example, parachuting, modeling, and for drone racing, because the drone is going to be a new age, especially after 2020. So that's why we already have defined some 10, 12 new locations in Turkey. And when we activate them after 2020, they are going to generate another $150 million a year.
Yeah, and that of course leads to job creation, doesn't it? You're creating more employment opportunities for people in Turkey.
Definitely. As of our organization, we currently have 3 paid people. When we achieve this goal, the number is going to be double. And of course, when we talk about $150 million of income per year, this means tens of thousands of people are going to be employed of this area.
All right, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. That was Bekir Hocaoğlu, the CEO of Turkish Aeronautical Association. Michelle, of course, that's just one of the ways that Turkey is trying to improve on the economy, put it into a firm economic stance. It's an area that they see, lots of interest in. It's an area where they believe they can make money, where they believe they can create jobs. So the government as well is putting a large focus on this, even building their own fighter jets and selling it off, to countries like Pakistan who want to work with them. It's an interesting field. It's of course a field in South Africa that raised controversy, with the oil. And here in Turkey, there's a whole different way of this particular industry, but they do it because they're in a strategic position globally for that to actually happen.